Hi again. It was quite amusing that I was carrying on with my presentation without realizing the connection had broken out. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. It was it was quite hilarious. I thought I was still presenting it to the class. Nevertheless, let me start again.
I think we missed 5 minutes.
No problem, no problem. I was in a flow and I didn't realize that, hang on. Let me There is a particular way I have to go about. So was I on this slide when the connection broke, or was I had moved? Can anybody tell me?
One slide before.
Uh, were we on this slide before the connection broke?
Little before, I think.
Ross, when
Here,
we
here.
lost the connection. Yeah.
Yes. Here.
Okay, Ross. Dem
You
for
were
Ross and Shell.
giving us definition of some.
Yes, yes, Bashir.
You were giving a
Okay.
definition of some this expert on the
Okay.
subject.
So
What is migration?
so in fact,
Their
what?
connection was
Sorry, Bashir. Sorry. So, in fact, one of the things that I was talking about in academic and scholarly pursuit, we always there is these are perspectives. These are there is nothing right, wrong, or and one of the things that we do in academics is we cite people. So, who is giving that definition? Which scholar? Because always understand that each scholar or each academician would be saying things on from a particular perspective. There could be an ideological bias in that perspective, but that's besides the point. The point is these are all perspectives, and when one follows an academic subject or an academic pursuit or a scholarly pursuit, one has to look at these citations as to who's saying it, and these are perspectives. I keep telling it to my students pretty often that these are perspectives. Do not take it as a gospel of truth or take it as between right and wrong. There are no binaries in academics. These are all perspectives. One has to figure out what they are. Provides an important network of diffusion. In fact, one of the important aspects of migration is an important network for diffusion of ideas. A non-migrated society or a society where there are no outputs or inputs, where there is nothing going out or nothing coming in, would obviously stagnate because you will keep doing the same thing over and over again, whether it's efficient or not. So migration becomes a very important way for innovation, for diffusion of ideas, information, social and economic changes. And that's one of the reasons migration is an interdisciplinary subject, because it takes on from all other subjects. According to Castles, migration is a part of the process of transformation of social structure, institution, entire global political economy. Sociologists talks about influence of decision of an emigrant. Again, how does migration happen? Is it at a micro level decision made by an individual? We will see in various units that it's not just an individual, but there is a structure. There are institutions which influence migration. There are factors which influence migration. In fact, in earlier, I talked about pull and push factors. In spite of the pull and push factors, there are other reasons why migration happens. So there are descriptive classifications like geographical, chronological, there are demographic and economic classifications. So the whole subject of migration, which we thought was typically people migrating from point A to point B, actually has many more nuances in it. And one can study migration from each of these nuances. They could be political illegal classifications of migration. They could be casual classifications, free or forced migrations. So Baggio talked about this. UN puts two basic features of international migration, which is international migrant stock and international migration flow. Both measures necessary to assess migration trends. So Kartike, when you're talking about WHO, you would be typically looking at international migrant stock or migration flow. Stock means number of people at a given point, where flow means number of people arriving or departing from a given country or region over a course of a specific period of time using a calendar year. And also remember that migration need not be the legal route. There is a whole lot of migration which could be the illegal route, which could be smuggling, which could be trafficking, which could be coming through illegal routes. So a lot of these numbers need, and why do we need these numbers? Because unless you have these numbers, how do states and policymakers make policy? If you do not know how many people are moving out, how many people are coming in fact, diaspora and migration studies became extremely important, because of globalization, because of enhanced level of transportation and media. Suddenly they realized that today everybody was connected with everybody. And when people were connected with each other, everything which happens outside also influence people inside. And whatever happens inside influences outside. So each state or each country today realizes the importance of diaspora today. Because, for example, India is not only the biggest migrant country in terms of the sending migrants out, India is also the largest receiver of remittances from Indian diaspora and migrants. So India has a huge stake in terms of diaspora and migrants. The amount of remittances we receive is much higher than the next country, which is Mexico, I think. These are the various types of migrations. Again, source, the United Nations Mobility and Migration. More often than not, whenever we're going to present something, more often than not, the source would be given to get you to understand. The source also allows you to cross-verify. Please remember, today, internet is a great source of information, but it also can become a great source of misinformation unless you cross-verify sources. For example, a lot of you might be using ChatGPT. Remember, ChatGPT can give you erroneous sources. So unless you cross-verify and cross-check information on the internet, more often than not, you can get stuck in misinformation. So they could be regular, they could be involuntary, they could be undocumented, family reunion. These are various subheads. So if you see IDP, internal displaced people, a lot of involuntary movement migration is internal displaced people. Today, with the lack of employment opportunities in the rural areas, a lot of displacement is happening to urban areas. So these are as per the UN, mobility and migration, various types of migration. Theories on international migration has been explained by various social scientists like sociologists. Again, a lot of these information is there in your self-learning modules, which you might have got or may not have got. In case you have not got your self-learning modules from IGNOU, remember all these, a lot of these self-learning modules are there on the website eGyan-Kosh. So if you go on to eGyan-Kosh, Google eGyan-Kosh, you can go into your migration and diaspora studies, PG diploma or MA. You can download these courses straight away. Most of the presentations that I take, my basis is the self-learning module. Places where I feel that the self-learning module is not giving adequate information or is not explaining it to the requisite, or if I need examples, then I plug in from various media reports or otherwise, from scholarly papers and otherwise. Various social scientists like sociologists, social anthropologists, demographer, a typical interdisciplinary, what we talked about. There is a neoclassical theories on international migration of geographical distance and supply and demand of labor. And that is why the older students today are studying a lot in terms of economics of labor. In fact, there is a whole lot of a whole block on economics of various types of economic theories, A country or region which has a large presence of labor related to the available capital, we have excess supply of labor and low wages. Typically, the global south. So if you see the global south, large presence of labor relative to availability of capital. And if you look at the global north, labor is less, capital is more. So the global south becomes a push factor in terms of people, and the global north becomes a pull factor in terms of capital. Which has large capital. As a constant difference of wages induce the labor from labor surplus to move to high wage countries. Now, again, this is just one theory. More often than not, when you go through multiple theories, you will realize that when you look at one theory, you say, oh, this can explain things. But then you look at another theory and then you think, oh, this can also explain things. And then you will look at the fact that each theory has its own shortcomings. So remember, these were theories done to explain phenomena. International migration and investment in human capital comes at a cost in order to earn our way. So also understand, whenever a person migrates, there is a cost associated with migration. So what is the cost associated with migration? Remember, the person has to make a visa if he or she is taking a legal route. Even if he or she is taking an illegal route, you have to pay an agent, you have to do transportation. Similarly, in a legal route, you have to do visa, you have to make your documents, you have to pay for your transport, your accommodation. So more often than not, there is a cost associated with migration. The expense of travel, cost of living, effort required to learn another language, adjusting to learn different culture, psychological cost of leaving friends, family behind. These are all costs. And more often than not, individuals look at in terms of cost benefit analysis before they decide to move. That pay and employment differentials across country are primarily motivators. That's the neoclassical theory of international migration. And essentially, the theory says once there is disparities are eliminated, the migration will come to a halt. It's a theory. Again, as I said, don't look at whether it is workable, it is not workable, it's right or wrong, true or false. These are how the theories are. Then there is an international migration, new economics of migration emerged in the 80s, integrated approach, different level of social structure while taking also into account historical and contemporary activities. So, for example, why historical? Historical, for example, British colonized India and a large part of the world for centuries. Now there is a historical connection between India and Britain. So initially, a lot of freedom fighters who fought for India's independence had a British education. Today also, a lot of people we know so much about Britain because there is a historical connection. Similarly, people from Goa have a historical connection with Portugal. And similarly, Latin America, Brazil, for example, has a connection with Portugal. Mexico has a connection with Spain. So there is a historical account to it. Individual rationality in macroeconomic conditions are no longer considered as a sole factor, as per the new economics of migration. Migration economics highlights the significance of bigger groups of individuals, such as family, homes, and even communities, as a link between macro and micro. And more often than not, we'll see that we see that in the internal migration, one person from one village goes to a particular city, sets up shop, and then rest of the people from the same family or the kin migrates from that village and comes to the same city. And you can do a small survey around you. For example, people who are domestic workers in your house, you ask them from where you are, and you will find there is a whole setup in terms of a family or extended family who have come from the village and settled out here and working in various sectors. You can do this survey and find out. You will find out a lot of people. How did you come to, let's say, Delhi, or for example, I stay in Gurgaon. How do you come to Gurgaon? my uncle had come earlier and then he called me, or my brother was here. Model posits that people's collective goals are to maximize expected income while minimizing risk associated with all types of. And that is why the families, homes, extended groups help in this particular way to minimize risk. Economic improvement in sending nations may not mean the end of migration. It may increase. And why this is happening is more often than not, once you are economically well off and you are sending remittance home, then the rest of the family would also, now they have the money, they would also like to migrate. In fact, Punjab is a very interesting model where migration happened over a period of time like this. Canada today, for example, has the largest amount of Sikhs outside India having migrated from Punjab to Canada. A rise in the return on local productivity make more migration more appealing as means of overcoming capital and risk restriction. Uh, so unless there is a increase in for example local industry or ways in which people can earn their livelihood or economically become better, migration continues in some form or the other. And remember also there is a perception to it, perception of improvement of lifestyle. So for example, from a person who migrates from a rural to an urban area has a perception that his or her life is better off in Delhi, Mumbai, or any metro. Whereas actually, if you see, there is quite a possibility that their life is worse off than what they were in the rural areas. And that's one of the reasons why, when COVID lockdown happened, everybody started going back to their villages because the quality of life is much better in a village than in a city. It's much harder in a city. Pay differential exists or not, the model predicts that migration will persist. That is the new economics of migration. Furthermore, households in community with varying income distribution may be motivated differently by the same predictive gain. So these are two theories that I put out. There are other theories in the module. If you can download the module, you can see that. So having introduced a little bit about migration, let's look at mobility. Another term that is there, ability or capacity to move. Mobility researchers not only interested in ability of people to move, but also in flow of goods through space and time. Migration is only about people. But mobility researchers are also looking at flow of goods through space and time. For example, a Suez Canal blockade. What is the outcome? The Russian-Ukraine war has affected food grain prices in Argentina and has disrupted their payment, the debt payment position of Argentina. In fact, Argentina is in severe economic hardship today. So how is these things, and today with this globalization and global connectivity, just any war or any disruption anywhere is bound to affect the global system of supply and demand. So no longer is our countries or states or regions, secluded from the rest of the global economy. And maybe that is one of the reasons why larger conflicts have not happened, because everybody understands that, it brings hardship to everybody. Mobility considerations have to do with movement, is the absence. Mobility is not about movement, but also absence of limitations of movement. Factors that play in individual groups or materials movement. What makes one individual group or material more mobile than other? A part of mobility research. So in fact, when you're looking at research topics, you can also look at mobility research. You can look at topics of mobility. Why did, let's say, people from Kerala were the first to take opportunities in the Gulf? Is there a reason? Or how has that Gulf movement moved from Kerala and now has moved on to UP Bihar, from people from UP Bihar? Are they characteristics of the individual groups or material characteristics of the landscape or some combination of two for mobility to happen? The third keyword is diaspora. So what is diaspora? A population that is scattered across regions which are separate from its geographical place of origin. Comes from the concept of seeds, pollen seeds which disperse when the flower is, after pollination is ready for new plants to come about. The dispersal of seeds. That's how diaspora came about. Word used in reference to people who identify with a specific geographical location but currently reside elsewhere. So that's how the term came about. Most of the diaspora studies started with the Jewish experience. In fact, the diaspora studies started with the Jewish diaspora, was marked by the destruction of Jerusalem, dispersal of Jews to other areas, especially Babylon. And the initial diaspora studies added a shade of victimization and negativity to the whole sense of the word. That people have been forced to move out, they have dispersed, there's a certain amount of victimization and negativity. In fact, if you notice, the whole Jewish experience, still when they talk about it, is in terms of victimization and negativity. So there is a category of diaspora which is termed under victim diaspora. Postmodern world, however, the concept was radically reordered. Growing transnationalism. I'll come to what is transnational. Economic engagement and formal citizen impact have evolved in recent decades, made the transnational engagement more dynamic and substantial. I'll just come to the term transnationalism subsequently. So Safran, initial studies, Safran, main characteristics of diaspora. Again, as I said, Said, who is given this main characteristics. So some of the, there are 6 characteristics. They or their ancestors have been dispersed from an original center to more than foreign regions. How do you define a diaspora? Retain a collective memory, vision, or myth. Believe they are not and perhaps can never be fully accepted in a host society, so remain partly separate. These are the 3 ones. So even if you Google search and say what are Safran's 6 criteria to define a diaspora, these are 3. The other 3 are their ancestral home is idealized, conditions are favorable, either they or their descendants should return. And remember, all these definitions or concepts were formulated with respect to specific time frames. So diaspora studies have also evolved, more factors have been added. They believe all members of diaspora should be committed to the maintenance or restoration of original homeland, continue in various states to relate to their homeland and their ethno-communal consciousness and solidarity. Also understand, when the original concept of diaspora studies took place, there was no concept of social media. There was no concept of internet. So most of the concept of homeland or the remembrances were in the memories of people. Today, all these things are locked up in Reels and TikTok. And there is a 24/7 connectivity with people back home. In fact, before you migrate, you look at where you're going, you're already having a 360-degree view back. You are connected while on the route to migration. You are connected when you reach out there, and there are video chats, there are audio chats. Then there was Cohen, major work, 1995. Remember, 1995 is the time when internet is just happening. 4 additional features to Safran. Social media is still not in. Diaspora should include scattering groups with aggressive or voluntary purposes, possess a strong connection with the past that acts as a block to assimilation. Should be defined positively rather than negatively. Common identity with co-ethnic members in other countries such as colonial settlers, overseas students, refugees, and economic migrants. In fact, today we have terms like digital diaspora. People are, working in another country with a job which is in a third country. If I look at the theorization of diaspora, can be categorized into 4 different groups, focused on diverse aspect of immigrant life. Classical describe the forced migration. Remember the migration, the diaspora study started with the diaspora of Jews and the forced migration of Jewish, African, and Armenians. Second conceptualization, historical, cultural, and social diversity of people living in diaspora. That's how you categorize it. Bipolar notions of home and host. And the fourth, emphasize on relevance of origin and historical exploitation of people of 4 countries. So there are various ways diasporas have been theorized. Again, as you get the unit and as we study various diasporas, we will, we will see that, various diasporas can be categorized into various ways of theorization. So, for example, Cohen identifies 5 types of diasporas: victim, refugees, imperial, colonial, labor service, trade, business, cultural, hybrid, postmodern. And many a times we may not be, watertight compartments. There are other diasporas also, which possibly nobody has studied, or, when you look at them, they were missed out because these were the dominant ones. Again, if you use the keywords Cohen 5 types of diasporas, you will get on Google. So typically today, as I keep saying, in a class, you could sit down with a pen and paper or a mobile and note down some keywords that will help you to search more. Sorry. In contemporary times, diaspora formations are complex and reasons for their formation is manifold. In fact, a particular author in the India's partition talks about the Indian diaspora. People, so larger Indian continent, when it got partitioned, people before that, would they classify themselves as Pakistani diaspora or Indian diaspora? A lot of them still can't classify as Indian diaspora. In fact, a lot of people from from Indian descent who went to places like Suriname, or various parts of Caribbean do not want to identify themselves as Indian. They want to identify as local because there are reasons why people would want to identify or not identify. Diasporic identities have become deterritorialized. Michel remarked that nation has outgrown the state because of diasporic tentacles. Again, we will see in various units how this debate between nation and how the state has become smaller. Today, the nation has become bigger in terms of India being represented as a world. But we also will see that the state still has a large role to play. The state has not disappeared. Identities are constructed and deconstructed in a flexible and situational way. Defining the term or coming out with an ideal type is often confronted with the problem of applicability. So there is no ideal type, and definition of the term is fluid. To treat diaspora is homogeneous term. There is a term called Indian diaspora, but Indian diaspora is not homogeneous. Once you categorize as a Indian diaspora, then there is a diaspora from Kerala, from Andhra, from Punjab, from Gujarat, from UP. It's not homogeneous. It would be unfair as such a case is markedly different from other. However, what needs to be highlighted is that every act of migration does not necessarily lead to diasporic formation. Diasporic formation also is this mobilization happens in specific cases. And over a period of time in various units, we will read as to why does this happen. Time has to pass before the migrant community can be called a diaspora. So when does this happen? Does it happen? Is there a particular time frame? You will see that that also is fluid. Last terms, transnationalism and globalism. Transnationalism denotes transcending the strict distinction of national boundaries. Globalization implies development of an increasing integrated global order. Inevitably, the reasons why globalization happens was a faster transportation, not like earlier you sit on a ship and then it will take months to go to your destination. You have faster means of transport. The communication revolution has happened. There is an information revolution happening. As I said, you are a 24 by 7 connectivity. Both the processes espouse free flow of capital, ideas, and people and complement each other. And that itself has changed the whole concept of migration and diaspora. So earlier, once you migrate, the chances of coming back were not there. More often than not, you would think of your homeland. So when the endangered labor were taken from India, there was no chance for them to come back. The whole concept of homeland was in their memories. They would create cultural symbols for their homeland. Today, you can go and come back the same day. You can, as I said, while you are traveling, you are connected back home. When you come to a new place, you are connected back home. There are diaspora organizations there. You are there is an India away from India. There's a China away from China. There are all kinds of connections which are happening. Fashionable and widely used term, transnationalism is a fashionable and widely used term, referring to economic and international organization, terrorism, and diaspora, closely linked to forces of globalization, modern communication technology, easy and affordable transportation, declining population declining populations in some areas get other people to come. For example, the caregiving business in the global north is a big thing, which is taken care of by people in the global south because populations have decreased in global. The fertility rate is less in global north than in the global south. Transnational relations are maintained and sustained through a web of social networks which circulate knowledge, skills, and intelligence. You don't need to say, for example, today I'm talking to you people. Somebody might be sitting in one eastern part of the country, somebody is sitting in the southern part of the country, somebody is sitting in the western, somebody might be outside the country, and yet we are be able to connect through this social media or this Zoom call. Increased transnational connection between society, cultures, people have impacted economic, social, and political field across nations. Everybody is learning, everything is learning out of each other. Helps in understanding global issues starting from politics, tribunal activism, social and economic and cultural work. Today, cultures are so much influenced by each other that, it then kicks in, politics, it kicks in political, strategies as to how to handle these influence of cultures. Today, India, Valentine Day, Halloween is celebrated. Birthdays are celebrated in rural areas which do not understand the concept of birthdays. According to Alvaro Lima, a phenomena only made possible advances in transportation, communication, past 2 decades that are unable to previous generation of migrants. That is transnationalism. Transnationalism, that's the split up of the word. Then there is a transnational from above, where there are, supranational political and economic bodies, or transnationalism from below, which includes transnational migration, migrant experience. Today, people, a lot of times, Indians sitting in the US, are giving, a political discourse on social media as to what should be done and what should not be done. And you wonder, but these are Americans, why they are giving you? But that's the way the connectivity is. Transnationalism affect diverse areas of international governance, interstate politics, foreign policy, social value. A person sitting in India makes a derogatory statement on another country's head, or on a religion, which can have international ramifications. Appadurai puts transnational in terms of translocality, feeling translocality presence, the idea that the nation state has been displaced as the exclusive mediator, and yet the nation state holds a very important role. We shall see in multiple units why a nation state still holds a very important role, irrespective of the fact that all these connections, which are above and below and horizontal and lateral to the state, have been set up. Despite transnational practices, state continues to remain focal point. Connectivity operating through modern technology in cyberspace and made transnational spaces permeate. Groups are formed, which includes people from various parts of the world. Connections strengthen rather than erase local identifications and systems. Does not prevent the integration of immigrants into the it does not prevent the integration of immigrants. So an immigrant can integrate into the host society, at the same time has a connection with the home society. Better the immigrant is integrated educationally and professionally, the more likely he or she to engage in transnational activity. Inevitably, because once you are integrated, your status out there is confirmed, you are then going back and forth between home and host. There are types of transnationalism, transnational political conscious. Today's human mobility cannot be viewed as a rupture between here and there, as social relation continue over spaces. So you might be a US citizen, but you are still invested in the politics of your family back in your in let's say in Delhi or in Bengal or in Kerala or wherever you are, and the local politics challenges homogenization and has led to repositioning of states. Connectivity increase heterogeneity. There is this negotiation happening between localization and this globalization. There is a negotiation happening between a transnational identity and a national identity. All these ideas are today competing with each other. So no longer can you say that you are an American citizen, but he's a non-resident Indian. He's a overseas Indian of overseas a person of Indian descent. So he has a stake in the Indian politics, and he's bound to have a say. You cannot then say that you cannot have a say. Okay, and I come to the end to okay, very much in time. I hope I was able to give you a large brief of the topics of migration, mobility, diaspora, transnationalism, globalization. And as we go through multiple units, we will see how these pan out. Any questions? Any questions? Any thing to point out? Vinod, did you get a few ideas as we were going about?
Yes, sir. I mean, I was capturing different notes and ideas. I have at least about 10 of them now.
Correct. And once you download those SLMs, the IGNOU SLMs, and as you go through units, you will realize, oh, I never thought about things this way.
Yes,
Which
absolutely.
is precisely what I keep talking about, classes giving perspectives.
Absolutely, sir. I think it was making more sense now. In fact, when I was trying to go to the eGyan course to download, under the masters, I couldn't find any content. Looks like this content is in PG diploma.
It will be in PG diploma. So go through PG diploma. MDI 1 to 6 are there.
Okay.
In fact,
So,
the other courses, when you go through the PG diploma, all these courses, and you can download individual units.
sure, sir. Are there any physical books that's going to be sent across?
I know the IGNOU typically sends you course
No,
material.
Abhay,
Sorry, yeah, yes, sir.
physical books already many got. In this batch, they'll be sending within a month.
Physical books.
Yes.
Okay.
No, are you talking about the SLMs or other books besides the SLMs?
Only SLM.
SLM. So we know typically SLMs are sent to you. And again, as I said, the SLMs take time because it's a physical medium by which courier comes to you. You can go, and for everybody else, you can go to eGyan Kosh, search for PG Diploma in Migration and Diasporas. You can download the SLMs to start reading them on the own. Each unit has references and reading lists. You can download this list and you can get those books either from the library, IGNOU library. Just a minute, Karthik, I'll just come to you. So you can either, there are enough of these books in PDF formats which are available on the net. You can download them and read them up. You can go to IGNOU library. Now that you have a student card, you can go to IGNOU library and you can issue books from there or any other library that you can. But the largest source today is the net, where a lot of these books are available on a lot of these sites which offer you free books.
I can add a few things like those who are in Delhi, they can directly come and take from the counter. Otherwise, after 15th, they'll be dispatching. I'll follow it up.
Okay. So this is Professor Sahu is talking about the SLMs. Karthike.
Thank you, sir, firstly, for the wonderful lecture. It was amazing to hear about this topic from you and learn different aspects of migration. Before we started with the classes, I went through some of the SLMs myself, and for the benefit of the class, I can share them on the WhatsApp group. I've already downloaded all of them.
Wonderful. You can. So, guys, my initial premise of the network being much powerful than the individual comes true. So whoever wants to get a unit can connect with Kartikeya and he will be able to share it with you. Sorry, Kartikeya, I interrupted you.
No, sir, not at all. So yeah, that's what I wanted to highlight. Another thing, sir, you mentioned regarding the Kerala, the incidence of Keralite people being the first to migrate and being the largest diaspora abroad. So, I was just thinking in the middle of the lecture that it might be so because it has a very high literacy rate and low employment opportunities that may match the ideal wage that the population may aspire for. So, hence, I mean, of course, this is just a question and I'm only theorizing right now that it might be one of the reasons why so many people from Kerala go abroad looking for higher wages and then sending back remittances. So
So if you do a little more, Google search, there'll be many other. There are a lot of Keralites in the group. It's a very interesting thing to ask these people. Connect with them and ask them. It might be a great topic for you to write an article on.
Yes, I can add about few things like there are layers of migration. Unemployment is a push factor. There will be many going because of unemployment, but Kerala will have all layers of migrants. They will have higher educated entrepreneur type. They'll have also low skilled like nurses and all. They are also semi-skilled, but there will be variety of migrants.
Sada, let Kartikeya search this and figure this out. It will be a very interesting thing. Let him do that because he's got this thought. So again, as we had talked about, when you go through these lectures or these SLMs, then you will start looking at things in a different perspective, and then these research questions arise as to why this, why not this.
Indeed.
And that would be the basis of possibly your PhD researches, or if you are planning to look at writing an academic paper, you could look at, in case you are looking at writing a journalistic piece or an academic piece, we could help you out. You can do it individually, you can do it jointly with us. Sada sir is there, I'm there. You can start by coming in at an idea, we can flesh it out, and an output can come about.
That would be most helpful, sir. Thank you so much for.
We will be more than happy. Sada sir will be more than happy. So we encourage people to, because academics, a big part of scholarly and academic pursuit is writing. to be able to write an academic paper which can be published, to be writing a journalistic paper which can be published. At the end of the day, publishing makes you feel good about what you are thinking, or you want others to read what you're thinking.
Sir,
Yes, yes, Gurpreet.
sir, usually for a common man, migration means going abroad. The another country, that's probably the out migration. Why the migration within the country is not discussed or highlighted at the same level, at the same pace?
I guess, it again has to do with how media looks or focuses on this topic. And to a larger extent, also the fault lies with our academicians. Not enough academic pieces are talked about in. See, at the end of the day, media is able to visibilize or put in the limelight the invisible. That's the job of the media. Media also includes books, pamphlets, academic pieces. This is all media. We tend to look at media only as a newspaper. Now, the fact is, because not enough work or academic insights have gone into internally displaced people. It was actually the COVID which finally got the spotlight on migrants without realizing that a large part of our urban centers works on migration. If all these, so there was this article, Karthik, a very interesting article, and people from Kerala would substantiate this. This news article said that if Chhat Puja, if people in industries in Kerala give people holiday on Chhat Puja, the Kerala economy will lose this much percentage of GDP. Means how many people from Bihar, UP, and Orissa, and Chhat is predominantly Bihar. So, how many people from Bihar are today working in Kerala? Because a large part of Kerala local labor has migrated abroad, which has these people have come and taken work out there. There were other factors too. There were a lot of factors what this article talked about. But the fact is, we are not giving enough media attention to the internal displaced migrants. Gurpreet, for example, in Punjab, how many people from Bihar, UP, Orissa are coming during the agriculture seasonal employment?
Sir,
How many of them are coming in which district? What are their conditions? How much earning? How much research has gone into it? And this is what academics is supposed to do. So we are
true,
not
sir.
possibly giving enough research. For example, now when from Punjab, these women got trafficked to the South Gulf area, did media focus happen on trafficking from Punjab?
Sir,
So unless enough, and India is a very diverse country. It's a complicated country, and the diversity in terms of cultures, in terms of societies, in terms of various things, languages. Unless enough work happens, a lot of things will slip under the radar. Could be.
right, sir, got it, sir.
Okay. Any other question? So in case there is no other question, as I repeat, there is a WhatsApp group, which in case you are not there, please reach out to Firoz. Firoz is out here. Please reach out to Firoz. He'll add you to the group. Be a part of the group where all important information will come in. Typically, anything other than the class or academic knowledge you want to share, please do not share it in the group. Share it peer to peer. You want to share jokes, it's perfectly fine. You can make connections individually. Do not put anything besides the class or classwork or related with the course on the group. Do not make sure you do not do that, because then it might lead to a problem later. You want to make individual connections, please go ahead and make it. There's a YouTube channel. Please go and subscribe to that YouTube channel, so that you are able to follow what lectures are going on. You can download those lectures. And at any moment of time, you are having any particular question, you can, as I said, raise it in the class, raise it with Sada sir, raise it with me. I can forward it to Sada sir. Firoz is a resource. Yes, Karthikeya.
Sir, sorry for troubling
No,
you
no,
so
please do
much.
not.
Sir, like going through your lecture, I couldn't help but notice you quoting some research papers like Smith 1998 and Cohen.
Hmm.
Sir, it would be most helpful if you could share some of these papers, because the university doesn't give us access to resources like Enlist or JSTOR, so we aren't able to. These are behind a paywall. So
Correct.
yeah.
Karthikeya, in case you see the references, you might come across the whole, title as well as the author. If you are not able to find out, please tell me, write an email to me. I will try and search and send it to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
And if it's a question of JSTOR, Sada sir can help you with the JSTOR stuff.
Okay, perfect. Thank
Okay,
you so
so
much, sir.
any specific thing, a lot of these articles, if you try and go on, let's say, ResearchGate or academia.edu, a lot of these articles are there in the public domain. You do not need the JSTOR fund.
Okay, I'll
There
surely
are
check it
some
out.
specifics on JSTOR, but if you cross search, you might find some article which has been shared by some other person, some other scholars on ResearchGate or academia.edu. So in case you are not a member on academia.edu or ResearchGate, these are free sites. You can join them and you can download articles from there also.
Okay, I'll check it out. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah. And specifically, then you can write an email to me. I can search it out and send it to you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Sada sir has shared the YouTube link. You can download this link. Those links will also be available on your WhatsApp group, so you can get the links from there. As I said, we are there for connections. You are free to make your own individual networks and connections. Be a part of the network. Attend as many classes as you want. You are all professionals doing something or the other. So whenever time permits, attend the classes. We share a lot of information. Great to have you. Have a wonderful course ahead. And we meet next Saturday at 3 o'clock. We are doing MDI 007 on the economics of labor, some issues on economics of labor. And again, a lot of times, some concepts may not be automatically clear at the onset, but when you go through a couple of SLMs, then you say, oh, this works this, and that's how the connections get formed. So I'll see you next Saturday, 3 o'clock with the next class. Have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful weekend. Great to meet you guys.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
guys. Bye, guys.